Billy Joel Unfiltered. Why he thinks the Beatles' White Album fell short, and how his own life became a story of triumph, trauma, and tenacity. In a cultural landscape where music icons are often cast as untouchable legends, it's almost refreshing, if not shocking, to hear a legend himself speak candidly about another. And that's exactly what happened when Billy Joel, the beloved piano man, whose music has soundtracked generations of American life, sat down with Bill Maher on the Club Random podcast, released on July 21st. During the conversation, Maher, 69, brought up the Beatles' 1968 White Album, calling it one of the classic double albums of all time. Joel, 76, paused, choosing his words carefully, and then delivered a critique as unexpected as it was direct. "I'm not a big fan of the White Album, but some people love it," Joel admitted, his voice balancing respect for the band's legacy with a surprising honesty. But he didn't stop there. "I hear it as a collection of half-assed songs they didn't finish writing because they were too stoned, or they didn't care anymore. I think they had fragments and they put them on the album." Coming from Billy Joel, a songwriter famous for tightly structured, melodic storytelling, this wasn't mere provocation. It was a glimpse into the way an artist who built a career on finely crafted pop songs hears an album often praised for its raw experimentation. The weight of truth. John was dissociating. Paul was carrying the weight. Joel's remarks went deeper than surface-level critique. To him, the album reflects not just creative decline, but the band's growing internal fractures. John Lennon was dissociating at that point, Joel said, suggesting that Lennon's interest in the Beatles' collective project had waned, distracted by his relationship with Yoko Ono and personal struggles. "I think Paul McCartney was carrying the weight," Joel continued, recognizing McCartney's drive to keep the band's output consistent even as unity slipped away. These words resonate with long-documented histories. By the time the Beatles recorded the White Album, they were fresh from their retreat in India and emotionally scattered. The sessions were marred by tension. Ringo Starr even temporarily quit the band. Producer George Martin described the experience as a chaotic departure from the disciplined approach that had defined albums like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Joel summed up his view succinctly: "Sometimes they were more prolific and sometimes they weren't, and I hear that in some of those things." In his eyes, the White Album wasn't a coherent statement. It was a messy glimpse into a band falling apart. Why it matters coming from Billy Joel. What makes Joel's comments so compelling isn't just the critique itself, it's who he is. Billy Joel isn't an outsider taking potshots at legends. He's a peer, an artist who, like McCartney and Lennon, has felt the weight of massive commercial success, critical scrutiny, and personal demons. Joel's own albums, from the introspective The Stranger to the rock-infused Glass Houses, were crafted during a time when the album as an art form mattered profoundly. His songs aren't known for abstraction or open-ended experimentation. They're celebrated for narrative clarity, melodic strength, and emotional honesty. In that sense, it's no surprise that Joel, who built his legacy on meticulously finished songs, sees unfinished fragments not as beautiful chaos but as missed potential. A life beyond the piano, triumph, trauma, and tenacity. Billy Joel's reflections on the Beatles come at a pivotal moment in his own story, the recent release of Billy Joel, and So It Goes, a two-part documentary that turns the spotlight back on him, not as a rock icon, but as a man who survived more than most fans ever knew. The first part, which premiered on July 18th, isn't just a highlight reel of sold-out stadiums and platinum records. It's an unflinching look at the darkness that nearly consumed him, a near-fatal motorcycle crash in 1982, and 2 suicide attempts that revealed a deep battle with depression. Through candid interviews, home videos, and family photographs, the documentary paints a portrait of an artist for whom music was both a gift and a burden. The motorcycle crash that almost ended it all. On a rainy night in 1982, Joel lost control of his high-powered motorcycle on Long Island, skidding into a car and suffering serious hand and wrist injuries. Doctors weren't sure if he'd ever play piano again. For Joel, the piano wasn't just an instrument, it was the lifeline that kept him grounded when fame's chaos felt overwhelming. His recovery was slow and painful, but it reaffirmed what mattered. Music wasn't just what he did, it was who he was. The hidden battle, depression and suicide attempts. The documentary also addresses what fans had only speculated about, the 2 moments when Joel tried to end his own life. Fame, creative pressure, and personal heartbreak had become too heavy, and the man known for writing hopeful anthems like "Movin' Out," Anthony's song, found himself swallowed by darkness. That he survived, and continued to create, is, in many ways, the greatest testament to his resilience. his willingness to revisit these moments for the documentary speaks to a broader cultural shift. One where icons are finally allowed to be vulnerable, human, and imperfect. The soundtrack of generations. While And So It Goes explores these painful moments, it also celebrates the music that made Billy Joel a household name: Piano Man, Big Shot, Uptown Girl, Vienna, and countless others. Joel's songs aren't just hits, they're memories. Piano Man became the anthem of late-night bars and lonely dreamers. Vienna gently reminded listeners to slow down and embrace life's journey. Just the Way You Are, and She's Always a Woman, offered love songs that were heartfelt but never syrupy. Through the documentary, these songs become more than radio staples. They're woven into the narrative of a man who kept creating, even when the world around him, and inside him, felt like it was falling apart. Reflections from fellow icons. And So It Goes also includes interviews with other music legends, among them Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen, and Pink. Their presence isn't just about celebrity cameos, it's a reflection of Joel's place in music history. He isn't just a pop star, he's part of the same lineage that includes the Beatles, Springsteen, and other transformative artists. McCartney's appearance in particular is poignant given Joel's comments about the White Album. Though Joel critiqued some of the Beatles' creative choices, his respect for McCartney remains clear. To him, McCartney was the glue trying to hold the band together when things were falling apart. The Beatles' White Album, chaos or genius? The debate about the White Album is as old as the album itself. Released in November 1968, its 30 tracks captured everything from stripped-down acoustic songs like Blackbird to bizarre experiments like Revolution 9. To some, its eclecticism is what makes it brilliant, a fearless dive into every corner of the band's imagination. To others, like Joel, it's proof that brilliance sometimes needs discipline to become truly timeless. What's undeniable is that the White Album remains endlessly fascinating precisely because it's flawed. It's the sound of four men trying to find themselves, and often failing. And sometimes failure can be as revealing as success. Legacy still unfolding. The second part of Billy Joel, And So It Goes, which premieres July 25 on HBO Max, promises to explore the later years of Joel's life. His record-breaking Madison Square Garden residency, his decision to stop releasing new pop albums, and his embrace of live performance as the purest expression of his artistry. In an age where many artists chase streaming hits and viral trends, Joel's choice to focus on the stage rather than the charts feels almost revolutionary. For him, the connection with an audience, thousands of voices singing Piano Man in unison, is worth more than any algorithmic playlist. An artist at peace? At 76, Billy Joel seems more at peace than ever before. He's accepted the messy parts of his story, owned his mistakes, and shared his struggles openly. The honesty he showed in critiquing the Beatles is the same honesty he brings to reflecting on his own life. It's a reminder that legacies aren't built on perfection. They're built on perseverance, reflection, and the courage to tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Why we keep listening. There's something timeless about Billy Joel's music. The melodies, the storytelling, the humanity. Whether it's the hopeful nostalgia of Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, the biting wit of Big Shot, or the gentle melancholy of Vienna, his songs continue to resonate because they speak to universal experiences: love, regret, hope, and the passage of time. Perhaps this is why Joel's criticism of the White Album feels less like an attack and more like an invitation. To listen more closely, to question what we call genius, and to remember that even legends had off days. Beyond the icons. In the end, Billy Joel and the Beatles are bound by something deeper than charts or accolades. The shared journey of being artists in a world that often demands perfection. They stumbled, disagreed, and sometimes disappointed fans, but they also created songs that changed lives. Joel's words remind us that it's okay to question the work of even the greatest artists, and that doing so doesn't diminish their impact. It deepens our understanding of what it means to create, to fail, and to keep going. A new chapter. As And So It Goes brings Billy Joel's story to a new generation, it's clear his journey isn't just about music. It's about surviving the moments when the music almost stopped, and finding the strength to start again. And in that, perhaps, lies the real masterpiece, not a song or an album but a life lived honestly, messily, and fully.